because of the tariff concern, what we have done is to make sure that we highlight suppliers or products who have local stock in the US, so you don't have to deal with the concern over getting through custom, dealing with the tariff, some of the lead time. As we have seen, a lot of times you may have lots of options and you may not be sure if it fully addresses your requirement. So the next step would be for the filter and evaluate. I'm going to look through a few areas, but I think the first thing I want to talk about as a highlight is a few kind of key options that we would definitely recommend. And then I'm going to switch my screen into the page again and look for some additional areas to look at. So the first thing first, what we would really recommend is look for the verified options. So these are the options that they're verified by third-party independent companies. And I think I have a list of options such as SGS, TUV, and Intertech. And then they will have, so those companies or suppliers who are verified will make sure that they have all the documents available for you to take a look. They will have videos or even kind of 3D tours of their factories. And also typically they already have expert experience, not only with their domestic buyers, but also internationally. And I think typically they also offer exclusive services and discounts. So that's the first thing that I would definitely recommend for all of you to click on the filter bar, which I'll show you in a little bit. And then we have a few more options for you to help you get that extra layer of assurance. One is called trade assurance. I'll talk more later, I think. But here is to make sure that these are the companies that when you pay through Alibaba, you will get all the assurance when it comes to payment and also when it comes to delivery. So the last one would be for Alibaba Guaranteed. That's an option for you to look into the shipment, guarantee for shipment delivery date, or if it's delayed, then you can get some money back for that. So those are the top 3 things I want to highlight. But then let me go back to my webpage so we can look for a few more details. That's a good question, Lynette. So you asked about if a supplier doesn't have the verified badge, but has the Alibaba Guaranteed badge. If you are talking, so typically when we talk about Alibaba Guaranteed, it's more specifically around shipment. So it should have a guarantee on the delivery or a guarantee for reimbursement if you missed it. But when it comes to payment, I think so you can think of Alibaba Guarantee almost as a subcategory under trade assurance. So when it comes to payment, you still want to make sure that you are paying through the website and all of that. But in terms of verified, sometimes some of the suppliers may not be verified because they're lacking like some of the options in terms of maybe licensing. So those are the areas I definitely want to caution. And in your personal due diligence, it's good to validate that. But as long as it's placed, the order is placed with the Alibaba guarantee on it, then at least the guarantee in terms of shipment you could have confidence in that.
Hey, if you're enjoying this content, you're going to love the masterclasses that we host on a regular basis. We've got over 1,000 members in our private community, and over 400 of them are already doing over $1 million. We regularly host masterclasses with hundreds of students, and you can find out more below. Join us.
So on that note, I can give you an example. So let's say that we click on this option, right, Alibaba Guaranteed. What I just did now is to click on the badge right here for the filters called Alibaba Guarantee. And this will allow you to see that all the options now has a guaranteed delivery by a certain date or money back guarantee. But then you see some of them are not verified, meaning they're lacking the licensing, either they did not go through the process of third-party verification. I wouldn't say they're completely unreliable, but at least without that badge, it means that we have not done the validation through the third-party kind of independent agencies to get all of those guarantees in place about their license, their past experience, etc. Okay, so the other way around, I see that there's a question about if the supplier has the trade insurance but not a verified badge. Yes, so in this case, with the trade insurance, which all of you can find here, the trade insurance has a mix of things that focus on specific placing of orders. So as long as you're dealing with suppliers with the trade assurance, it means that your deals is protected. But then when it comes to do they have the capability of the customization, maybe do they have some of those past experience in exporting, these are the stuff that are not being insured or guaranteed through trade assurance. But your trade or your order will be protected by Alibaba.com. Right, so that's the two things we talked about. So let's take a look at what else is on the platform. So some of you might have already seen this. I would say that this option is not the most relevant to those of you who are looking for highly customized products. But what it means here is that because of the tariff concern, what we have done is to make sure that we highlight suppliers or products who have local stock in the US, so you don't have to deal with the concern over getting through custom, dealing with the tariff, some of the lead time. But most of these items are more of ready to ship items, or sometimes with very light customization allowed. So that wouldn't really apply if you are looking for highly customizations for your product. And then the verified one is the one that I just mentioned earlier. I think this one, I will highly recommend all of you to select it, especially if this is your first time going through the process of assessing the reliability and trustworthiness of a supplier, because this means that all of these licenses are processed. Without that, you can do your own due diligence on it, but it would take you a lot more time and maybe learnings of how to get there, how to ask for certain like certification, etc. So that's one thing we do highly recommend, but you can find a way around to do your own due diligence. And then, so this delivered by that you're seeing here is associated with the Alibaba guarantee typically, but depending on kind of what's the delivery range. And the merge results. So this one we created for that because right now we're in the product tab, and sometimes the same suppliers, because they have different variations of the same product, which we learned about from the first class with Brandon, that you can have variation in terms of color, in terms of how many quantities in same batch, right? So maybe it might kind of impact your experience where you might be seeing the same results from the same supplier. So you can click on this to make sure you're only looking at products or look at one option from each supplier. And then you have some additional options such as store views, the paid samples if they allow that for you, and categories, price, minimum order. This one, I think, take them as a reference point, but I would recommend you to not be too strict about them in the filter phase, because you might kind of lose out on opportunities, but then you can always engage with the supplier to validate some of these things later on, as opposed to screening out all the other options right away.